Sissy fixed the tea, red mug for Ava and black one for Sissy, and brought her to the table where she took up her favorite seat in the entire house. From there, if she turned around, she had a view of the back garden, and in a natural sitting position, a perfect line of sight through the kitchen and down the hallway toward the curved staircase with its wide bottom step, and all the way to the red front door. "Sorry there's no sugar or cream," she said. "Don't tell me, you gave them up." Ava flashed a cheeky grin. Sissy smiled and said, "Months ago." "You're practically a monk," said Ava as she drummed her scarlet painted fingernails on the tabletop. "I don't know how you stand it here with all this old stuff." While she sipped from her dark mug, Sissy considered her response and wished for the drumming to stop. It's comforting to have all these connections to the past. Ava's red lipstick mouth appeared to form a question, but instead of speaking, she closed her eyes and tilted her head back. "Listen." Ava paused, allowing the natural world to have its say. The crick-crack of the walls and floorboards whenever the wind gusted. The long, inquisitive trill of a robin redbreast in one of the trees. And the chitter of a squirrel. "It's like discordant music," she smiled. "The old place has its charms," Sissy said. Ava composed herself, willing the humor from her business blue eyes. "You know I couldn't live here." "I'm not in favor of selling," Sissy said as she fingered the handle of her mug. "I told you already." "But you can't afford to keep it up, not by yourself." Ava sipped her tea. "I don't know how you live in this old city." "Old, old, old," said Sissy. "That's all you ever say about things around here. The house is too old, the city's too old, our father's too old to keep living here." "I still think he would have been better off at the old folks' home till the end." "We both would have been better off if he'd stayed there." Sissy could feel herself hardening, on the verge of closing herself off and shutting down. "But I had nightmares about him, especially after Harry. Well, anyway, now we're deciding this together." "It's an old house, Sissy. It's too big for you. You told me yourself you can't afford to run it, financially or otherwise." Ava glanced past Sissy and toward the garden, out to where the bright yellow sunflower heads bobbed in agreement with the late summer breeze. "It's as much mine as yours. I have a say. But I can't see it as a bed and breakfast. People coming and going, no privacy, always serving meals, making beds. It's not how I want to spend the rest of my life." "Then come live with me." Sissy caught a glimpse of the barefooted ghost girl, leaning out over the curved part of the stairwell that overlooked the entrance to the living room, her hair draping the shoulders of her white dress. Her hands grasped the railing in front of her. "Hello, Claire," she said in her mind. She didn't respond, but Sissy could tell Claire was listening by the way she became very still. "You know how I feel about Toronto, Ava. You know." "Yes, well, you're not the first girl from St. John's to hate Toronto. It's cold there, and dark, and money-driven. And it's not St. John's, you might as well admit it. You hate change. You always have. And now when there's an opportunity..." "Opportunity? I have a life too, Ava. Look around you. Our parents, love them or hate them, lived here. Their parents built this house, now I live in it too. Harry and I shared a marriage here. We were married in the backyard." "And you'll be buried in the backyard too," Ava shrugged. "It's just a house. I mean, sure, it's big and glorious in its own way. In spite of everything bad that happened here, we had some fun times." "I get it. My God, the big dinners, the fancy cars in the driveway, the Craig Millers, the Monroes, they all came here, didn't they?" "I used to hide in my closet till they were gone," said Sissy. Claire turned her head slightly toward the kitchen. "I know you did," said Ava. "I assumed it was just too much for you." Claire suddenly sat down on the fifth step and started to rock, as she often did, a motion Sissy could vaguely detect. "They all loved you. You were the cute one that sang and played Silvery Moon on the Steinway." Sissy nodded toward the living room where the Victorian grand piano, with its reddish-brown mahogany satin finish, sat facing the wall. It was expected. A shadow crossed Ava's face, which caused Sissy to study her older sister, the unexpected softness of her features, especially the crow's feet. The blonde hair suited her, she supposed. "You could have played too," Ava continued. "You play beautifully." "I didn't want to." "That was your choice," Ava grinned. "Amazing Grace, I remember. We played lots of hymns and Irish music. Sissy shrugged. I'm just not as comfortable with attention as you are. I played for myself. She sauntered to the living room and stood beside the piano. You have even more memories here than I do. Mostly bad ones. Ava turned and watched Sissy as she caressed the edge of the closed key cover of the piano. Part 3. Starting now. More tea? Cut. Try again. Part 3, take 2. More tea? Sissy straightened her spine and stole a backwards glance towards the stairwell just before she stepped into the kitchen. Claire had floated off somewhere. Ava stopped humming and peered. Excuse me. Take 3. More tea? Sissy straightened her spine and stole a backwards glance towards the stairwell just before she stepped into the kitchen. Claire had floated off somewhere. Ava stopped humming and peered at the same spot on the stairs, even as she kept playing the melancholy song. What do you keep looking at? She shouted. Ava's playing always seemed louder than Sissy's. Sissy shook her head while she filled the kettle. Just thought I saw something. She raised her voice just enough for Ava to hear. Ava stopped playing but kept her hands on the keys. Ghost? Arms folded across her chest, Sissy watched the first wisps of steam arise from the kettle. Some days I don't know what to believe. Come again? Ava yelled. Sissy cringed. Rather than raise her voice again, she stepped into the threshold between the kitchen and the living room, her arms still folded. I said I don't know what to believe. I wish I could see them too, Ava said. Then we could face them together. Why do you think I see ghosts? Harry complained about it to me a few times when you weren't around. Did you know she actually talked to ghosts, he'd say, with that kind of cruel grin he had. He didn't mean it as a compliment, but I told him I thought it was pretty cool. Sissy searched Ava's eyes for the truth, but didn't speak. With a silent nod, Ava began to play again, but she hit a wrong note that made both sisters wince. Ava's initial embarrassment quickly turned to laughter. What you really need is a man, a bit of flesh to take your mind off it all. Sissy laughed as well and wheeled around to return to the kitchen. I've had enough men to last me a lifetime. Ava stopped playing and stood up to peruse the built-in wooden bookcase that occupied most of the wall, adjacent to the piano, and was stuffed with books. She recalled that Cotton Hush had built that piece as a family gift, though only the two sisters did much reading. Harry's not coming home, Sissy. She plucked out a pocket-sized hardcover of the picture of Dorian Gray and wielded it as a prop. Unless you know something I don't. The younger sister appeared about to respond when the kettle's rising scream called to her. Relieved at the sudden quiet when she lifted the kettle, she gathered her wits and poured the hot water into their mugs, then foraged in the cupboard for other tea bags. I know he's not coming back. That doesn't mean I want to replace him. You don't have to replace him, just get laid for God's sake. Or have a fling. You don't even have to sleep with him, just let go for once, you know? I'm not ready. Sissy shook her head in mock annoyance, a faint grin lifting the corners of her mouth. Besides, why do you even care? Because all you do is work, read, and talk to ghosts. Sissy laughed. Give it up, Ava. How often do you see them? Ava replaced the book onto the shelf, sat down at the piano again, and prepared to play. Sissy paused only for a single exasperated moment, then she picked up both mugs and joined Ava in the living room. Ava poked at the keys, trying to coax another song out of them, but nothing came to her. I'll worry about you, sis. No need, said Sissy. Here. She gave the hot red mug to Ava, who rested it atop the piano. Sissy grimaced. Do you still play? Ava asked. She tried her tea, but it was still too hot, so she set the mug down again atop the piano, despite Sissy's audible gasp. Sissy didn't answer.